being connected to your feminine energy is not only one of the most powerful ways to call your manifestations into your life, but also as a feminine being, it's truly just a way to live a more fulfilling life. And I know that there's so many Instagram posts, trainings, podcasts, so on and so forth out there these days that talk about the feminine energy, which can be super confusing and feel unattainable when you don't really understand what it is. This is where I was at when I first was learning about the feminine energy a few years back. And so on today's podcast, I want to talk about what the feminine energy actually is and how you can fully own and honor your feminine essence to create that fulfilling, beautiful, playful, intuitive life that you desire to have. What's up, and welcome to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, the podcast that demystifies all of the nonsense that surrounds manifestation and gives you a realistic view of what it's like to be on a personal, professional, and spiritual growth journey. I'm your host, Kat Kozad, manifestation and money mindset expert, and I'm so happy you're here. Let's fucking do this thing. So, like I said, when I first was introduced to the concepts of the feminine and masculine energies, I was so confused because I thought that because I am a woman, that meant that I was always inherently living and existing in the feminine energy. When in reality, now that I have been able to fully understand both of these energies and work on healing my relationship to the feminine energy, I realized that majority of the time I was living in and operating from a very masculine energy. But before we dive any deeper into this, I want to break down what exactly the feminine and masculine energies are so that you have some context as to what I'm talking about, if these are completely new words or concepts to you, or if this is something that you've heard a lot about, but you just feel genuinely confused about. So first, I want to preface this by saying that both of these energies, the feminine and the masculine, are not exclusive to one gender or the other. These are energies that no matter what your gender is, you have inside of you. And these energies go past and transcend gender. Although you will find that you will typically identify more heavily with one than the other, it is important to know that you have both of these energies inside of you, and it's essential to understand and honor both of these energies inside of you to create peace and unison in your life, body, and experience. So before we dive into the feminine energy, because I'm going to go really, really heavy into talking about the feminine energy, let's first talk about the masculine energy. So what is the masculine energy? This is an energy that you are most likely very familiar with because this is the energy that most of our modern societies embody and base its structures, ideals, habits, behaviors, etc. on. And the masculine energy is a very stable and predictable energy. Its strengths are willpower, clarity, and focus. The masculine energy likes to create structures and rules, so it knows how to apply logic correctly. Pure masculine energy has the gift of clarity, so it knows what needs to be done and what needs to be achieved. The masculine is the master of planning and laying out guidelines that are based on logic and experience. And like I said, this is probably an energy that you are very used to experiencing and used to seeing in our modern society, because majority of our society is based on rules and structure and logic and being able to see from point A to point B how something is attained and how you get to that place. And so one of the things that I want to talk about very quickly is that if you have been in the online space hearing about the feminine and masculine energy, a lot of the time, the masculine energy gets a bad rap. And what I want to say immediately right here on the No Bullshit Manifestation Show is that these energies are not inherently good or bad. They are completely neutral. And there's no way the feminine energy can exist without the masculine energy, because the masculine energy is that structure, that logic, that reasoning that we all need in order to be able to actually have the feminine be supported by that. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh yeah, I hate logic, I hate reasoning, I hate rules, X, Y, and Z, it's like, okay, that is fair. And the masculine energy is still not bad. Or if you've been in the online space and you've heard a lot about how feminine leaders are always acting and operating from their feminine energy, that is a bunch of bullshit, because the masculine, like I said, is absolutely necessary in order for the feminine to exist. The feminine energy cannot exist without the masculine. So diving back into this, one thing very important to know about the masculine energy is that it is very goal and success oriented. It is very centered around passion and purpose. And this is why so much of that logic and reasoning is connected to the masculine energy, because in order to achieve whatever goal or whatever success, accomplishment the masculine energy desires to accomplish, it's found a lot of success in logic and reasoning to get from point A to point B, like I was talking about earlier. So the masculine energy thinks in a very linear way, aka when you're operating from the masculine energy, if you wanted to get to point C, you would first have to go through point A, then point B to get to point C. And very simply put, the masculine energy is the energy of structure and order. And the most important thing to the masculine energy is being able to provide safety and security through its actions, embodiments, and structure that it creates. So all of those words to say that the masculine energy, essentially, if you want to think about it this way, is the structure and the foundation of a house. This house wouldn't be able to exist if there wasn't the foundation that was laid, the structure, the beams, the wood, whatever it is that you're using to build that house, to create those walls, and the roof over the house. That is the masculine energy. It is the structure that is able to hold things together. And as we go into the feminine energy, we'll talk about how this plays into this house analogy. But really know that, again, it's necessary. The masculine energy is very necessary in order for the feminine to live and exist. And just like the structure of a house, the foundation of a house, creating a plan for building a house, it is based on logic and reasoning. It is based on facts. It is based on evidence of the fact that something exists. So again, just this very direct, logical energy is the basis of the masculine energy. Whereas as we step into the feminine energy, what is the feminine energy? The feminine is a very flowing and dynamic energy. The way it moves cannot be predicted or always explained with the rational mind. And the feminine energy is unrestricted by social norms because the feminine doesn't follow any rules other than its own intuitive guidance that is coming from the heart, coming from the soul, coming from its intuition, and coming from the source, from the divine. The feminine energy can see possibilities that are invisible to the structured masculine energy and create opportunities that are in contradiction to logic and that have previously been seen as impossible. And when a person, man, woman, or non-binary, creates from their feminine energy, they tap into their intuition and receive guidance from their intuition, from their higher selves, and from source. So I'm going to break that down. What does that mean? It means that the feminine energy is all about operating from and taking action from the space of inspiration and intuition rather than logic and reasoning like the masculine energy does. Intuition cannot be rationalized, neither can the energy of the feminine. And because it is so deeply intertwined with the way in which someone operates from their feminine energy, these two energies coexist together. So example of this is like, instead of looking for the logical and practical path to do something or operate in life, the feminine energy is all about feeling into, tapping into what feels aligned and inspired and connected inside of you, inside of your body, inside of your intuition, your heart, and your soul, and allowing yourself to move from that energy. So a perfect example of this in my life is back in 2019 when I had just hit my rock bottom moment and was introduced to intentional manifestation and really started to incorporate all of these practices into my life, started to dive deep into the inner work, was reprogramming my subconscious mind, healing from my trauma, so on and so forth. I was so much more connected to my body and to my intuition at that moment than I ever had been in my life at that point. And as I was really healing from these very logical, practical things that I always thought needed to be in place or needed to operate from in order for me to get what I wanted out of life, which, tying back into what we were just talking about, that is a very masculine energy-based perspective. And that is one of the things that living and existing, again, in our society teaches us to do. But when I was coming into this place of really connecting to my intuition, that's when I was led to sharing about my experiences on Instagram and on my social media. And through following that inspiration, it led other people to reaching out and asking if I could help them with the same exact things. And through following that inspiration to help other people, the idea of creating my business came to fruition in the first place. That's how it manifested. And by continuing to follow my inspiration, follow my intuition towards this, I created a business that I never, ever would have thought would be possible if I was to follow a very logical and practical path to get to that place. Could I have done it with a very logical and practical approach? Absolutely. But it would have taken so much longer to get to that place versus being able to, and I didn't even know it at that time, tap into my feminine energy and really just follow inspiration after inspiration, intuitive pull after intuitive pull, and trust that by following that energy that I was experiencing inside of myself, that I would be led to a fulfilling life and led to my manifestations. So that is an example of these first few things I've mentioned about the feminine energy. But in addition to this, the feminine energy is flowing and dynamic. And the way that I like to see the feminine energy is kind of like a river, kind of like the ocean. So a river has countless turns, and throughout those turns, sometimes it's really strong and rumbling and rustling and moving really quickly. And sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's still, sometimes it's patient. Just like the ocean and its waves, sometimes there are days where the seas are calm and peaceful and even soft, whereas there are also days where the water is forceful and angry and chaotic. And contrary to traditional opinions about femininity as a whole in our society, the feminine energy is so powerful. Feminine strength truly comes from this place of being connected to your soul and knowing who you are and being willing to express all parts of yourself, even if it doesn't feel put together or quote unquote like pretty or perfect. Because the feminine energy is all about embodying and owning all of your sides, not just the ones that you deem as acceptable or worthy. This is the energy of wholeness. The feminine energy doesn't fear looking into your shadows, looking into any or all of your past experiences and emotions. This is truly just a part of the feminine energy and something that often fuels the feminine creative process. So I want to hit on that really quick. Oftentimes in our society, we are taught that any quote unquote negative emotion is a bad thing. And that is a very masculine way of thinking, because emotion doesn't necessarily make sense or have logic or reasoning to the masculine. Whereas in the feminine energy, emotion is fully embraced. It is something that the feminine doesn't resist. The feminine energy recognizes that emotions and feelings are valuable messengers and therefore listens to the lessons of their emotion. And this is why in my programs, there is such a massive emphasis on changing your relationship to emotion, because by releasing the unsupportive narratives and habits that you've held surrounding your emotions in the past, and just allowing yourself to fully experience them, be with them, own them, and accept them, you are tapping into and freeing your feminine energy. That is where, again, you freeing this energy from your body, allowing yourself to have this emotion, have this experience, you're often led to creativity or led to your next great breakthrough. Because without releasing that energy or allowing yourself to have that experience, you keep yourself stuck. But when you allow yourself to be in the space of owning your emotion and having that emotional experience, you're moving energy through you in maybe not a linear way, which is the masculine, but in a completely free-flowing and dynamic way. And that is the power of the feminine energy when it comes to emotion. So, for example, the power in owning all of yourself, owning all of your sides versus just some of them. Like I said earlier, the feminine energy is all about wholeness. It's all about owning and honoring all and every part of yourself. And when it comes to, let's say, the manifestation process, or even just living a more fulfilled, whole, holistic life, when you are accepting all parts of yourself, life is going to feel so much more fulfilling. Life is going to feel lighter. Life is going to feel more creative, and like more doors of opportunity are open for you, because there's no parts of you that you're trying to resist. There's no part of you that you are denying or rejecting, and therefore you are opening yourself up to all of the abundance and creativity and moments of bliss that the universe has to offer to you. Whereas if you are just accepting some parts of yourself, that is going to lead you to a very narrowed down experience, because you are only then energetically open to a very small portion of your own human experience. And for the feminine energy, creation and creativity is the most important thing. So the core of the feminine energy is creation. The core of the feminine energy is expression and creativity. And by opening yourself up, this allows that. And unlike the masculine energy, feminine energy doesn't need to apply a step-by-step process or logic and reasoning to create or manifest what it is that you desire. The feminine energy is all about truly living and existing in the frequency of what you want. And if you listen to the podcast, this is something I talk about all of the time when I talk about embodiment. That is what embodiment is living and existing in the frequency that you want. And through doing this, the feminine energy has a magnetizing nature, and thus the feminine energy doesn't need to constantly be working and doing and hustling to get what it wants. It just simply exists in the vibration of what they are wanting and calling in. And as a byproduct of that, and living in a space of inspiration and taking action on that inspiration and intuition, it gets what it wants. So another example of this, feminine energy playing out in my life, this has made the manifestation process absolutely effortless for me. And I know I talk about this a lot, but ever since I really, like I said earlier, healed my relationship with the feminine energy and with the masculine energy, and understanding why I was living and operating in the masculine energy majority of the time anyways, allowed me to then really embrace all sides of my feminine energy. And as a byproduct of that, manifestation truly has become effortless. There's no more of these step-by-step processes or like rituals that I have to do in order to manifest what I want into my life. And I actually talked about this on my Instagram story the other day, but because of living and existing in the feminine energy, my manifestation quote unquote method or practice is living. Just living on a day-to-day basis, showing up for my life with intention and in the vibration of what I want to be experiencing. So for example, with that, let's say if you're wanting to manifest more money from the feminine energy, you would want to live and exist in the vibration of a wealthier version of yourself, identifying what you believe that wealthier version of yourself would be doing, feeling, thinking, etc. on a day-to-day basis, and then living in that vibration without the logical and practical plan of how and when it's going to happen. Whereas the very masculine approach to this, and again, absolutely nothing wrong with this, but what we are talking about here is embracing that femininity. If you feel as though the masculine is something that is very tiring or just not supportive to your natural energy, the masculine approach to making more money would be figuring out the exact plan, structure, logic, and reasoning that has to be in place in order for you to manifest that and create that in your life. So again, for me, the feminine energy has completely changed my manifestations because there isn't all of that mental load, mental game of trying to figure out all of the structure and logic and reasoning to get to those places, and really has just allowed me to connect to my body, connect to my intuition, connect to God, the universe, source, spirit, and manifest from that instead. So to keep going on this and give you guys some more on the feminine energy, the feminine energy also knows when it's time to slow down, when it's time to speed up, when it's time to nurture new projects, ideas, versions of self. And because of this, it lives in accordance to natural rhythms of death and birth. And what I mean by that is really knowing and listening to that intuitive pull of when you know something has run its course, allowing it to be dropped off, allowing it to shed, allowing yourself to release it in some sort of way, as opposed to feeling as though you have to stick with it because it's something that you have said you would do or dedicated yourself to or committed to in some sort of way. The feminine energy is truly about allowing these natural cycles of birth and death, like I was saying, of allowing this new version of yourself to come in, but allowing that old version of yourself to die so that there's space for it, of accepting new opportunities and streams of abundance to come into your life, but allowing and releasing those old streams to be shed and to be released so that there is space for it. Really, this cycle of welcoming in and releasing, and doing that in a way of recognizing that it's like, it's not bad or wrong or something that you're doing wrong because you're constantly going through these cycles and experiencing things, but actually seeing it as the natural rhythm in which the feminine energy lives and exists in. And kind of like I was talking about earlier with the masculine energy, seeing things in a very linear way, the feminine energy perceives the rhythm of life completely differently than the masculine energy. The feminine energy is not linear by any means. There's no way of getting from point A to point B in a linear way when it comes to the feminine, but instead it moves in a very circular motion, like I was talking about earlier with this natural rhythm of life, because everything is interconnected and moves through its own cycles. So what does this mean? The feminine is very open to letting go of the old things in order to create space and welcome in the new in her life. And because of this, and allowing life's natural cycles to play out, the feminine is capable of skipping over the linear path that the masculine energy states must be taken in order to get there, and can completely transcend the experience of what the masculine and linear path would take to achieve whatever it is that they're wanting. So a lot of the times you'll hear people talk about quantum leaping. And quantum leaps happen when you let go of the need to live and exist in the masculine energy and truly allow yourself to live in the feminine. So, what are key things that you need in order to live in the feminine energy? From my experience, as well as coaching hundreds and hundreds of women over the past few years, what I have found in order to really connect to, own, and honor your feminine energy, it requires you to get in touch with 4 core things, which first one is creating internal safety. This is something I talk about a ton on the podcast. Second is reconnecting with your body, and through reconnecting with your body, owning and honoring all parts of your body, really amplifying your intuition and inspiration that lives and exists inside of your body. Third is connecting with source, God, the universe, spirit, whatever it is for you, and completely learning how to trust in the universe and surrender to the universe. And fourth is understanding what energies you are currently embodying and why you are embodying that energy, and being able to heal any of the things that's not allowing you to live and exist in your feminine energy. And with all of these things and everything that I've talked about in this podcast episode, I am so excited to announce something, which is a brand new group coaching program that I will be launching in September of 2023, so in a few weeks' time. And this is a program that I have been building behind the scenes for over a year now. So I am like truly in my body. I wish you guys could feel the level of excitement and just like passion that I have to share this with you, that this is something that is coming, because so much has been poured into this, and the work that I'm teaching inside of this new program, which is called The Source, will absolutely change your life and create that connection to the feminine energy that you are desiring to have in your life. So if you are interested in coming on board, learning how to connect to your body, to your intuition, to inspiration, to source, spirit, the divine, God, the universe, whatever it is for you, and fully own and embrace your feminine energy so that you can magnetize your manifestations into your life, as well as live just a more intentional and fulfilling life, then I highly encourage you to put yourself on the wait list for this new program, The Source, because enrollment will be opening at the very beginning of September. Enrollment will only be opening to the wait list first and give everybody on the wait list the opportunity to join before opening it to the general public. But if anything that I have talked about in this podcast episode has spoke to you, know that connecting to your feminine energy is the key to the next level of your life, and learning how to get in touch with your feminine energy is what is going to change the game for you. So If that is the case for you, this is the perfect experience for you. You can click the link down below in the show notes to get on the wait list for this new program, as it will have very, very limited spots for this first round. And I know that these spots are going to go very quickly because I've had hundreds of women who have been so interested in learning about how they can connect to the feminine energy in their lives over the past year as I've been creating this. So like I said, hit the link down below in the show notes to put yourself on the wait list. The wait list, anybody who joins, you will get information on every single aspect of this program very soon. And like I said, enrollment will be opening at the beginning of September. But I really hope that this episode created clarity for you surrounding the feminine and the masculine energy. We're going to be diving into so many more concepts surrounding this on the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. And with that being said, I am sending you all of my love, and I will chat with you on the next podcast episode.